Hello and welcome to the vlog. This is one I've wanted to do for such a long time now. Ever since we got Lily back in 2019, I wanted to put solar on board, but I wasn't quite sure how or the best way. I didn't want to make any holes, I didn't want to drill. It just seemed odd drilling holes in the roof, so I'm trying to avoid it. There's quite a few other problems as well associated with that. How do you get the wires in and all that sort of thing. So I've been looking for a way of doing it. I've watched so many vlogs, done so much research as ever, and I think I found a way to do it. So this is how I've done it. If it's helpful, that's great, but I hope you enjoy. Cheers.
So this is what I have in mind. Hope to use this mushroom to pass all the wires through, and this is all the space I've got to pop panels on. It's been painted a couple of years now, so the area is quite smooth, so it should work well with what I have in mind. By far the biggest job is the routing of the cable. I need to hide it when it comes in the cabin, and you can see we've not got much to play with here. I hope to come in through the mushroom, but then I have to move along the ceiling slightly and then move into the cupboard, and that proves to be slightly more troublesome than I thought. This is where it needs to arrive in the wardrobe, which is right next door to the electrics cupboard. So there's a few hurdles to get through first. So first off, I need to gain access in the cupboard so that we can actually see where the wires are going. Being really careful not to damage any wires. You can see there's some black trunking there which I need to avoid. Right, I can't seem to go from here over to here. That just seems to be an awful lot going on there. I'm going to have to go from here across to under here and then down, but I've got to make a hole under here. Right, so got it from here through to here, and then from there into there. This bit of the vlog was filmed over a couple of days, so it took a fair few hours to get this through. A bit of persistence, but you can see the cable's finally going in and out of where it needs to go. So it comes in the top of the wardrobe, and then it goes around to the electric cupboard where all the electric bits and pieces will be. So now everything's put back together again. It looks quite tidy. So I've put some trunking on as well and tidied it up a bit. So that's all ready and won't get damaged by any clothes or anything like that. So yeah, we're just really ready to put the switch up. So I now need to put a hole in the mushroom brass insert that I've got here, just so that the wires come out and got a route onto the roof. It's going to go in the trunking, so I just need to make sure there's enough room to do that. So once cut, obviously it's pretty sharp, so I'm going to need to put some protection on there really to stop any chaffing of the cables. And there you go. This split trunking is great. You can use it for so many different things. I don't think it looks too bad, actually. And back in the boat, we can pop that back on. See, I've got plenty of cable here, but it doesn't really matter because I can lose all that in the recess of the roof. It's always good to have lots of slack. So yeah, pop that up, and then that gives it a route out. Really pleased with that. And there you are, that's probably the biggest headache out the way there, so safe in the knowledge I can actually get the cabling outside, can continue. So now we've got the isolation box. Now this is quite an important part of it. It cuts off the power to the solar panels from the MPPT controller. It's really good to be able to isolate. As you can see, I label everything. Now we need to just sort out a place to put in the cupboard. Not got much room, so I'll just try and stick it out the way. So during all this time I've had the Victron kit at home and have been configuring it and setting it up. All the devices will want firmware upgrades and take configurations. So I thought it's easier to take it home and do it all then. So on site it just plonks in. So now I need to turn my attention to the electrics. Now I need to set up a way of connecting the solar to the batteries. I just wanted to upgrade and change the way that all works by putting this little fuse block in. It's like a new connection to the battery, so that it's got new cabling. It's going to have the solar in it and also the connection to the Webasto, bilge pump, all that sort of thing. But it sort of gives me a bit of room for expansion as well. Yeah, the fuse for the solar is 60 amp and the other one is the 80 amp fuse for the small fuse block. And I've got to try and find a route in from the engine bay into the wiring cupboard, so trying to get a positive and negative cable through takes a bit of hunting. And there you can see I've already terminated these cables and labelled them all, just so I don't lose track of what's going on in the future. And there you have the new fuse box. Okay, so you can see how the solar cable connects to it. It's a really neat device, I was really pleased with that. So there's one large mega fuse for the main cable going out, and then you can have 4 mini fuses, or MIDI fuses as they're called. And now to start fitting the Victron kit. Now this little device, the Smart Sense, it's really simple to fit. It just has a positive and negative wire, goes straight onto your batteries. It's a little Bluetooth device which the solar controller will find, and it will take its battery measurements and temperature from that rather than its own internal one, which makes battery charging far more accurate. So it just plugs onto the positive there, negative there, and that is it. So I positioned it on the batteries just so I can see when the cover's on. It's really simple to use via Bluetooth app. And there you can see it, just hiding underneath, flashing away. There is a red light if there's any errors. It is recommended to use these on boats, especially because the engine bay is often hotter or colder than where the controller is, so it can charge the batteries more accurately. And here is the controller I've chosen. It's the Victron again, the 100/50, so that's 100 volts max, 50 amps max out, and they're really simple, have a Bluetooth connectivity on them, and they're very simple to wire up as well. So you've just got positive and negative to the battery, solar panels come in on that, and then you've just got a comms connector. One odd thing is the mounting side of it. You need massive washers, so I thought I'd do something a bit different, as I had some of these bits of metal lying around. Just sort of modified the way to mount it, but it seemed to work okay. And here it is all mounted up, so you can see the red positive and negative leads going down to the battery. And the other leads all wired into the isolator switch. So that's it, that's the electrics pretty much done. Now the solar panels. I've got 4 of these, they're 200 watts each, and they come from Craig Solar. Which seem to give a good price and a good spec as well. I'll just zoom in on that so you can see what the spec actually is. It's quite important that you know what all these are when you're planning your installation, just to make sure the controller can take it all. So as I'm going to be mounting these using magnets, I thought I'd better just clean it all up first. So I've not cleaned the roof for probably 6 months or so. And this is the mushroom where the cables come out of. So it's just a simple case of taking the tops off and pulling the cable out as it's all prepared. This is where the spiders abseil from during the night as well. There's quite a lot of cable still coiled up within the roof void, so if things need to change in the future, that shouldn't be a problem. And again, using the split trunking just to protect it from the metal bit there, just so it doesn't chaff when I screw the mushroom down on top of it, just to protect it a bit more. And there, I didn't think that looked too bad. You'd hardly see that coming out. So this is what took the install so long, was me trying to find a way of mounting these using magnets. Came across this product, which is great. Just take the protection off. They stick on. They've got a rubber bit on them which allows them to angle, because obviously the roofs are always angled on narrowboats. It takes a lot of effort to pull it off. It's about 20 kilograms I think, which is quite a lot. So I'm quite happy that they'll be up to it. So the 10th time of actually putting the panels on. Fortunately, it's nice and sunny and there's no wind, which is lovely. There's no frame I'm going to use to mount these. I'm just going to put the magnets straight on to the solar panels themselves. This is because the holes are already there, plus I want these panels to be as low profile as possible to protect them from the wind and to hopefully make them look good. So they just come with a washer and nylock nut, and just screw it on and away it goes. They don't look like they're much, but they're very, very strong. So I'm pretty confident that these will do the job. So putting these on, they've got their protection bit on the magnets at the moment, so they don't stick fully, but it allows you to position it to where you want it. And of course it doesn't matter, I can move them anywhere on the boat anyway, you know, they're not fixed to this position. So as you can see, it's really low profile. They actually sit below the level of the mushrooms, which is great, so no problems with tunnels or anything like that. There's not much gap there at all. So panel number 2. I'm wiring these up in parallel series, so I'll go on about that later on, but basically the back 2 panels work together and so do the front 2. So once you've got your panel in position, you just go around each of the magnets, removing the plastic washer and the metal bit that that's attached to, and then the full force of the magnet starts, and the panel becomes pretty rigid. I'm actually giving it quite some force here, and it's not really moving too much at all. So there you have it. There's some wiring that I've not included in this, so just ignore the fact that it doesn't look like the panels are all connected yet, but they're all physically in position now, so you can see where they're all going to sit. They're all quite low profile, and I think that goes really well. So we've got the best of both worlds really, so we've got the efficiency of the solid panels, but the profile of a flexible panel almost. And there you go. Really pleased with that. You can see the profile is such that with the lip on the side of the boat, it does actually stop the wind going from the side, which I'm confident will help with that. These two get in the way of the ropes at all, I'll just move them into the centre of the boat. But I think the front ones will be fine. And they're all movable, there's no holes in the roof at all. So if I change in the future, no problem.
So there you go. That seemed to work okay. I hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to go through some points which hopefully clear up some things about the install itself, some techie bits and pieces, and some just general interest stuff. You'll have to excuse me. I'm looking at a bit of paper behind, so if I keep looking up, it's not that I'm ignoring you. So basically, the whole thing was I didn't want to drill anything. Partly because of changes in the future. You might want to change panels around, you might want to do various different things, there might be new technologies coming out or something like that. Didn't want any rust spots or entries. Didn't like smearing everything with filler and sealant and that sort of thing. and that was the primary thing. So I've managed to do that. The other bits and pieces were I was looking at the panels themselves. I've been researching them. The rigid panels give better price per watt, still for better value, and they last considerably longer. So decided to go with those. I do like how low profile the flexible ones are, though. They do look nice. So I wanted to sort of try and get a low profile sort of version of those, but in a solid panel, which hopefully you think I've done. I wasn't keen on the flexible panels because of the glue that they use. A lot of them use. I know there's lots of different ones around, but a lot of them use glue, which can mess up the roof and the paint job. So I wanted to move away from those and stick to solid panels. So the next thing was how to fit them on. I'm not a great fan of the quite elaborate frames that you can get to put the panels in. They raise the panels up. They can complicate things. I'm not a fan of angling the panels. I know, it's the best thing to do. You get more solar power from that. I think it's like 20-30%, something like that. But I didn't want to be bothered with having to do that all the time. So I've gone for adding more panels to compensate for that, which seems to, well, hopefully will work. One other point is having like a T-bracket and angled panels, which are great for picking up solar. Wind is a big problem on narrowboats, believe it or not, even though they're like 18-20 tons, whatever. On a windy day, they can be difficult to manoeuvre. And I thought that these might actually act as a sail, but not in a good way. So the whole thing here is I've gone for fitting more panels, or the most that I can reasonably fit on the boat, and the best size. I didn't want to get too big a panels because I want to be able to walk up and down on the roof if I need to. You can get metre wide, over a metre wide ones, which are much more efficient and give a lot more power, but they would sort of hinder me a little bit, I thought. Lots of people will recommend you do a power audit before you put solar on, so you're actually getting an accurate figure of what you're using, and that probably is a good idea. It's really difficult to figure out though, and there's lots of things on a boat that you might not necessarily remember or might not know the answer to, is how much power they use or how often you're going to use it. Hence why I've gone a different route. Rather than get a solar set up with the amount of power you're going to use, I've sort of gone for as much solar as I can reasonably afford, and safe in the knowledge that that's it. I almost certainly won't add to it. It's 800 watts there. I can't get all of it, but that's 800 watts of potential solar, which I would be very unlucky if that's not enough. There's lots of people that I've spoken to and vlogs that I've seen whereby someone will work things out and think how much they need. Very often they'll realise they need more. You never get as much as you think you're going to get from solar. So they add more panels. Of course, when you add more panels, sometimes it pushes you over a threshold and you have to change your MPPT controller, or maybe even get another one. So you're complicating things, you're making things much more expensive, whereas it would have been cheaper just to sort of go all out to start with. I'm particularly pleased with how the cable went into the boat. Most installations I've seen, they're right at the back of the boat, just above the electric cupboard. They'll drill a bigger hole and sort of stick a plastic box over the top, which looks okay. But the thing is it can introduce more problems. So I wanted to use the mushroom vents. Quite lucky, got quite big mushrooms on this boat. I'm not sure how a modern, with ones with the flatter mushrooms would cope. Whether you can do it on that, I don't know. But that worked really well. It was a bit of a bugger to get all the cables through. It took a while to do, and I did that before I bought any of the solar kit, so I didn't have any pressure. I was just there for a couple of days sorting that out. no sort of time scales, so that's quite a good way to work. But no, I'm really pleased with that, and I think it's come up quite neat. Throughout the install, the cabling is all 6mm solar cable. I've gone for that purely because the cost difference between that and 4mm is tiny, and it reduces voltage loss, so it gives me a bit of growing room if I needed to add more, as well as I can do without having to worry too much about whether the cabling can take it. The maximum cable you can use on the MPPT controller that I've got is 16mm. So again, rather than work out the current and all that sort of thing that I will use, I've just gone straight for that, just in case. So between the battery and the MPPT controller, if I get a bigger controller or whatever, then it should be able to cope with the amount of current. With the whole install, I've tried to do it so that it can grow and can change. I've tried to leave slack cable wherever I can so things can move around. Panels can move around all over the boat depending on how it works. It might not be that I've got them in the right place, so we shall see how that works. I've gone for Victron kit throughout the whole install. Eventually I'd love to have all Victron kit on board, charger, controllers, inverters, all that sort of thing, because it all works together and it gives it a really good install. So yeah, so I've gone for that. It's not cheap. I managed to get some good supplies though, so that's good. It's easy to use. So I've got the MPPT controller and the battery sensor. I've also got a Servo GX, which I won't go into here, but that just allows me to monitor all this remotely, which is like the heart of a Victron system. I went for the 150 controller purely because it's the biggest one you can get before the leap to the bigger controllers. And I was able to get that controller for, I think it's £250, but the next one up is getting on 500, so it's just crazy money just for a tiny bit more. And this is where I'm limited, because the maximum current and voltage on that, 100 volts, 50 amps. The system with the 4 panels, theoretically I should be able to get 70 amps. Now, no way am I ever going to get that, so there's no point in sort of trying to spec that amount. I sort of thought 50 is maximum, that's fine, and according to Victron as well, that's fine and perfectly reasonable to cope with. Good spreadsheet actually, which helps you figure all this out.
And this is the spreadsheet. I hope you can see it okay. But basically at the top you select your Victron solar controller, how you're having it connected, and then you've got a drop down list of Victron solar panels. If you're not having solar panels from Victron, then the next page you can go and add your own. See, I've got my Craig solar ones in there, and it figures it all out for you and tells you whether it's a valid setup. On mine it shows you here that it's maximum 50 amps when actually it should be more, but it's valid, it says it's accepted.
Yeah, the solar wiring then, I've done it in a specific way so that it can work with the controller. It doesn't go over any of the maximums. So the front 2 panels are in series, the rear 2 panels are in series together, and then they're both joined parallel. So what that does is it doubles the voltage, so each one's 20 odd volts, so I generally get 40 volts. And then with them being in parallel, it doubles the ampage, so whatever we get in from that. I can't put them all in series because that would push it over 100 volts, so that's which you mustn't go over on the controller. They're quite forgiving on watts and amps, but not on volts, so that's pretty much as I can push it.
And this is just a quick overview of the remote access to the MPPT controller, so you can see the information that it's given you. There's loads of other videos on these, so you can have a look at those, but this just gives you an example of what's going on this system at the moment. And this is the web page that's available if you use a Serbo GX. It constantly updates it, so you've got remote access and monitoring. You can see it starts giving you lots of stats and various bits and pieces. And as you add more Victron kit, it starts to add various facilities in. So you can see it gives you history. I've only really got solar and battery voltage at the moment, but there's loads of things you can do with it.
So I just wanted to say thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, especially those who subscribe. That's really nice. I mean, we've got small numbers, but it's a decent amount, and I really do appreciate those that do. If you press the like button, that's great. Apparently that does a lot of good. No idea what it does, but thank you very much. So until the next vlog, thank you. Bye bye.